Welcome to Robraintics, where we discuss recent research advancements in the field of neuroscience and robotics. Welcome back to Robraintics. Ever imagine navigating a maze, but blindfolded?
Sounds tricky.
It is. But get this. Turns out, our brains have their own internal GPS. And there's this new study that's like shining a light on how crazy sophisticated this whole system is.
It's pretty amazing, right? How our brains can just create these mental maps.
Right.
Like we can picture routes and remember landmarks and even like simulate journeys in our heads.
Yeah. It's like having a superpower.
It really is.
And this new study, it's called Mental Navigation in the Primate Entorhinal Cortex.
Mm.
It goes deep into this whole ability. And it was just published in Nature.
Oh, wow. Nature.
Yeah. So prestigious.
Definitely.
That's by Neupane, Fiete, and Jazayeri. They're from MIT.
MIT? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's like new to neuroscience, the entorhinal cortex, or EC for short, it's this brain region that's like super important for memory and navigation. You can think of it as the central hub where information about our environment gets processed and like all comes together.
So it's more than just like remembering where I parked my car.
Oh, yeah, way more. It's also involved in what we call endogenous computations within cognitive maps.
Endogenous computation.
Yeah.
Basically, it means our brains can run these simulations
yeah.
and do calculations about places and routes, even without, like, directly seeing them.
Whoa.
Like, imagine planning a trip in your head.
Okay, yeah.
You're mentally walking through it, right?
Yeah.
That's your EC hard at work.
Wow. So it's like my brain is constantly running these background calculations, even when I'm not, like, aware of it.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's incredible.
It is.
So to study this, the researchers, they used monkeys.
Monkeys?
Yeah, and this really clever task called the mental navigation task, MNAV for short.
MNAV.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they trained these monkeys to learn a virtual line. It had like 6 landmarks on it.
Yeah.
Then the monkeys had to mentally travel between these landmarks, but they had to use a joystick.
With a joystick. Yeah. But here's the catch. They couldn't actually see the landmarks while they were doing this mental traveling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they're like navigating a virtual world
Yeah.
using only their brain's map.
Exactly. They had to rely totally on their mental representation.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so because we know the EC is involved in spatial navigation, it was like the perfect place to look, to try and find clues about how these mental maps actually work.
Makes sense. So what did they discover? Did the monkeys succeed in navigating their little mental worlds?
They did more than succeed. They totally excelled.
Really?
Yeah. The monkeys could generalize their knowledge. Even when they got these like new landmark pairs that they had never seen before, they could figure out the route instantly.
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 Yes. Wow. That's amazing. It sounds like their ECs were representing the landmarks
Mm-mm.
in a very, like, structured way.
Right.
But how did the researchers, like, how did they actually observe this happening in the brain? Were they, like, reading the monkey's thoughts?
Not quite thought reading, but we're getting close. Uh-oh.
Yeah. They recorded the electrical activity of neurons in the EC while the monkeys were doing the task, and they found these really interesting patterns.
Okay, tell me about these patterns.
One of the most interesting things was what they called periodic activity.
Periodic activity.
Yeah. So certain neurons would fire, like in these bursts at regular intervals.
Okay.
And get this, the intervals matched the time it would take the monkey to mentally travel between the landmarks.
So the neurons are firing in sync with the monkey's mental travel time.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's as if those neurons were like little internal clocks or something.
It's really remarkable, yeah.
Yeah.
And as if that wasn't cool enough, they also found another type of activity called ramping activity.
Ramping activity?
Yeah, so some neurons, they would gradually increase or decrease their firing rate. And it was like they were tracking how far the monkey had mentally traveled.
So they're like keeping a tally of the mental journey.
Wow. So we've got neurons acting like timers
Mm-hmm.
and others keeping track of distance.
Mm-hmm.
This started to sound pretty complex.
It is complex, but the amazing thing is how organized it all seems.
Right.
And the researchers actually found, you know, that these periodic and ramping patterns, they were directly related to how well the monkeys performed on the task.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the stronger the periodic activity was, the fewer errors the monkey made.
So it's like this, it's like this well-coordinated dance.
Yeah.
With each neuron playing its part. That could create this seamless mental map.
Yeah, you could say that.
But how does the brain even, like, create this map in the first place?
That's a great question, and this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
So the study suggests that a possible mechanism involves something called a continuous attractor network.
Continuous attractor network.
Yeah, or CAN for short.
CAN.
Yeah. So think of it like a network of neurons that can maintain this stable bump of activity. And as you move, this bump shifts in response to input. Kind of like, imagine like a cursor moving across a map.
Okay, I'm trying to visualize this. So this bump is moving around as the monkey mentally travels.
Exactly.
But how do the landmarks we talked about earlier, how do they fit into all of this?
So the researchers propose that each landmark acts as a reset point for the CAN network.
A reset point.
Yeah, it's like using milestones on a road trip.
Oh, okay.
So like ER milestone helps you kind of recalibrate and make sure you stay on track.
So the landmarks,
Right.
they're helping to prevent the brain's GPS from going haywire.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they found further evidence for this in the data.
Oh.
Yeah, they saw this thing called a periodic phenofactor.
Periodic phenofactor.
Yeah, it's a measure of variability in the neural activity.
Okay.
And guess what? It was periodic.
So just like the neural activity itself.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that supports the idea that the landmarks are like, error correction points.
Yeah.
Making the whole navigation system more precise.
That's the idea, yeah. It's not just about representing space. It's also about representing time.
Oh, interesting.
So this kind of mental navigation through time, it seems to be different from the more basic timekeeping functions that we see in other brain areas.
Okay. Yeah.
So the EC seems to be doing something a lot more sophisticated. It's like it involves this structured representation of mental space that includes both spatial and temporal information.
It's like weaving a tapestry of time and space.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. To create this this dynamic map that allows for all these complex mental journeys.
Exactly.
But this was all in monkeys, right?
Right.
Is there any reason to believe that similar mechanisms are happening in the human brain?
That's a great question. And it's definitely a question that a lot of researchers are very eager to explore further.
Okay.
We know that humans rely really heavily on these internal maps to navigate the world.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, think about when you misplace something and you mentally retrace your steps, or like planning a route for a road trip.
Yeah.
You're basically using your EC and your internal mapping abilities to do all of that.
So even when we're like daydreaming about our next vacation, we're engaging in a form of mental navigation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Our brains are incredible.
They really are.
But this research has like implications that go way beyond just finding our way around, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If our brains can create these detailed mental maps of time and space,
Yeah.
what other like possibilities does that open up?
Yeah, this research could really help us understand other cognitive behaviors that involve mental travel through structured memories.
Okay.
Like, think about recalling a childhood memory or planning a future event. You're essentially creating a mental map of those experiences.
It's like our brains are constantly building these narratives, these journeys through time and space.
Whoa.
And this like seemingly simple study of monkeys navigating a line, it's giving us these like really profound insights into these complex mental processes.
It really is. And it just raises so many questions about how our brains create these rich and dynamic representations of our experiences. And this research, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. It's like a glimpse into the vast potential of the brain and the incredible power of the EC.
Okay, so for our listeners, what's the like big takeaway here? Why should they care about monkeys playing mental hopscotch?
Well, this study shows us just how flexible and powerful our brains really are.
Okay.
These monkeys learn this like abstract structure of a line, and then they use that knowledge to navigate mentally, without any visual cues.
Right.
It speaks to the incredible adaptability of the brain and to the intricate workings of evolution.
It's like they were using pure imagination to guide their actions. And this kind of mental agility, it's something that like we do all the time as humans, whether we're planning our day or just letting our minds wander.
Exactly. And this research suggests that the EC plays this like critical role in all these everyday mental feats.
I like that, everyday mental feats.
Yeah.
So the more we learn about these neural mechanisms, the closer we get to understanding what makes us human.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Our ability to think, to plan, to create, to imagine.
Exactly.
And who knows, maybe someday we can use this knowledge to develop new therapies for like cognitive disorders or even enhance our own abilities.
Oh, definitely. There's huge potential there. This research really paves the way for exploring all those possibilities.
That's so exciting.
It is.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
This research really highlights, the incredible complexity and power of our brain's internal GPS systems. Be sure to subscribe to Robraintics when we pay and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future Prompt Day fascinating journeys into the world of neuroscience.